Okay. Okay. One, two, three. Here we go. Welcome everyone to another exciting episode of Age Media Live. With me are my usual panelists, Brianna Law, academic nomad, foodie, and learner of all the things. We also have Colin Strong, an inspiring game developer and programmer, a video game enthusiast who's also bad at games. And lastly, we have our technical wizard, JC McKentler, an alumni of Northwest Vista Digital Video and Cinema Productions Program and the technical wizard of Age Media. All right, so how has everyone been?
Good.
All right, that's great. I'm gonna start with Colin. I hear you've been traveling the world. What's up, man?
Well, I was just in New York visiting my brother for his graduation. So he just graduated from Hofstra University, and we were up there to celebrate, and we had a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's one of the things that we did while we were up there is we went and saw his new work, which is a museum that is like a miniature train set kind of museum thing where you can go in and they've built like a miniature New York and Russia and UK and a whole bunch of stuff. It was fun.
A train that was a little like Russia?
No, it's like like a train set kind of thing, but it's huge.
All right. Sounds kind of cool.
Called Gulliver's Gate.
All right. What about you, Brianna? Anything exciting? Anything fun?
Not really, no. Just really normal, relaxing weekend. Basically just being out, I guess because of the holiday, so I was out all weekend. But it wasn't anything exciting. It was just being out.
We've had some excitement. Let's talk about the fun of setting up a new webcam.
Oh, yeah. That was quite a process.
All right. Awesome. What about you, JC?
Not much. I mean, I saw the new Pirates of the Caribbean movie. I liked it.
Wow.
I actually saw it Saturday and yesterday.
Twice. All right. Nice to see you enjoying a movie. You know, I've actually had good experiences with most of the Pirates movies. They're pretty good. I even liked the last one. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes they're silly, sometimes, but I mean, it's still they're all still enjoyable to watch, even if like impossible things are put in there. You know, like silly, impossible things sometimes happen, but it's still like enjoyable to watch it all.
Yeah, it's all about I think all movies in general are theatrical, requires a little bit of, I suppose, silliness. It all depends on suspension of disbelief. If you can go along for the ride with the characters in the movies, that's my perspective. Okay, all right. Okay, so next up, let's start with a little bit of news here. Trump's visit to Saudi Arabia and the Vatican has been, getting a lot of news as of late. And what interested me the most when I saw, because I don't want to get into anything too deeply political at this point. So what struck me as just socially significant was Melania Trump, because when you go to like a mosque or a religious place, there's a dress code, and Saudi Arabia being an Islamic republic, uh, Saudi Arabia being an Islamic republic, they have strict laws over there where women are asked to dress a certain way, and it's not asked because it's part of the law. It's like, I don't even have a good analogy for. It's like a dress code at work only for the entire country, and that dress code involves wearing a veil at veil. No, what's a veil?
I think it's more like kind of like a see-through cloth that you just.
Yeah, I think the veil is when you cover the entire face. So basically, what they have to do is wear a hijab or a niqab, as we call it. And Melania Trump was, surprisingly not wearing one. And this is me pausing because I'm saying and So I was like, okay, let me just pause for a second, organize my thoughts, and continue. So basically, CNN posted an article on it, and it was like a really well-researched article. It compared, the Trump family's visit to the Vatican, where they actually show them, wearing a veil, and veil is like when you. I don't know how to describe it. Can anybody like because basically she was wearing a veil in the Vatican, but she was not wearing a headscarf in Saudi Arabia. I when I first saw her, I thought she was like the first woman not wearing it in Saudi Arabia, but turns out that there was a tweet from Donald Trump himself criticizing Michelle Obama's visit to Saudi Arabia, where she also did not wear one, and he was criticizing her for it. So that was interesting. I just wanted to see, what you guys think about it.
Okay, so I think in the case of going to Saudi Arabia, if it's a law there, then it just makes sense for her to follow it. However, I'm not sure exactly of what was communicated to her. If she felt at any point that it might have been an option for her, then it would make sense that maybe she wouldn't feel comfortable doing it. Also, maybe just because of the stigma behind it. I'm not sure if she shares in that stigma of what a headscarf would mean. So, but I believe, if it's the law, I think it should be respected. It's not like she's living there. It's not anything permanent. So I feel maybe just having that respect would have made more of a positive, even more of a positive like impression on her. Even though she got good reviews on her outfit, I think that's great. But personally, I would have just worn it. Besides me personally thinking that I wouldn't wear a scarf, but it's just respectable, I think.
The official statement from the White House was that it was not asked. Otherwise, they would have done it. So
Yeah.
Just putting that out there as well.
Yeah. So then, yeah, that would make sense that she wouldn't wear it. Again, I guess if she wasn't strictly made to wear it, then as an American, it would make sense that she wouldn't. I think most might not feel super comfortable doing that, but it depends.
I agree with Brianna. I don't think. Yeah, if she was forced or asked to, then don't disrespect the country and its laws. But it looks like she wasn't forced or asked to, so I don't. I mean, what can you do?
No, you can't really do anything. It's just it kind of feels like a double standard, and it was just strange, because it's kind of like I'm not talking about Melania. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia. It kind of seems like hypocrisy when you have you're praising a woman and you have or a lady, and you are publishing an article on their national newspaper with her picture on the front page, and you have your own female demographic that has not been given that option. So I was like, either it should, and the thing is that it is the law, and she is aware about it, because Trump himself criticized Michelle Obama for the same thing.
Yeah.
It was because I've been to Saudi Arabia and like I've been there with my family, and we followed the law there. So it was a strange exception to the law. But then again, I think everything that happened there was an exception to the norm.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, that takes care of this story. Colin, you were like quiet, man.
Well, yeah, I was about to chime in, but
Oh, you are? Okay, we'll edit you in then. Sure.
well, I just felt like I don't know. I guess when Michelle did it, it seemed to be something more like a statement, but Melania, maybe it's just my personal feelings, but it just seems to be disrespect rather than a statement on the hijab or anything of that nature. But that's probably just maybe a little bit of bias talking. I'm not a huge fan of the Trump family, so
Fair enough. So it's interesting, good perspectives. Thank you. Let's move on to the next story, and this one is a really baffling one, and I want to present it to all of you and get your take on this subject. Because as I watched this, it really confused me, because I think discourse is important. I think dialogue is important and discussions are important. But the way this particular one was carried, just as I said, the only word I can use to describe it is in on damn it, what's the date? So it's week approximately. Damn it. I will, before I say anything, it is really important that I do not get the date wrong. So I'm just gonna quickly look up the date. I did not write that in the notes, and I will just continue from there. So yeah, it was okay. 1, 2, 3. So a heated argument erupts as Australian Muslim leaders address the Manchester attack. The Manchester attack that happened. Uh, I think it was a little over a week ago at an Ariana Grande concert. 2 lives were claimed and many were sent to the hospital. So as as is the norm with most attacks that are orchestrated by a Muslim, you have the entire community. They basically have to come out and they have to criticize it, and they have to say that this person is rogue and he does not represent us. So basically you had two leaders, or two alleged leaders from in Australia, from Sydney and Melbourne, and it took place on a show called Sunrise, or it might be the name of the channel as well. I am not 100% sure at this moment. So basically you had Imam Sheikh Mohammed Tawhidi, and you had Dr. Jamal Rifi. Both leaders agreed the devastating act did not represent Islam. However, this is where any common agreement they had ended. So Imam Tawhidi had the following to say: they push the Muslim youth to believe that if you go out there and you kill the infidel, that's how you will gain paradise. And this is a common, I suppose, a theme that is in the mind of extremists and stuff. So somebody who is brainwashed to do such acts of terrorism, can often believe something this outrageous. However, he then went on, and this is where I was getting a little confused. Let me share my screen with you. Mhm. Sorry, went into the wrong folder. Right here. He pulled this up and he said that people are being radicalized because you have access to Islamic paraphernalia or extremist paraphernalia such as this, the flag of Al Qaeda, which can be purchased for $2. And then he went on to, you know, say things that the Islamic community does not do enough, and like, um, it was, and he just like kept piling on and on. Like he is, as a progressive Muslim, he is not seeing enough effort, and he's finding a jihadi atmosphere even within Australia. And so yeah, I'm not really doing a very good job at explaining the entire events. Okay, shoot, and I'm still screen sharing. That sucks. I really need to know when to stop screen sharing. Okay, so yeah, it was basically this. What I'm gonna do is in editing, I'll probably put the clips of him saying these things, and so yeah, so what do you guys make of it, like this discussion?
So are we focusing on how these two aren't agreeing, like their different point of views on the situation of the youth?
What did basically what I want to know is like, what did you glean for it when you heard them both speak? What did you think, like, and why?
Well, I think for me it's hard for me to have such a super concrete opinion. You have two people who are seeing different things. I feel like maybe Rifi shouldn't have gotten super upset. And maybe he should have kind of taken.
Tawhidi, Rifi was the other one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So basically, my point is that if you have one who's seeing, you know, radicalization of the youth happening, if he's seeing this process happen, I don't understand where the hostility would come from. I feel like he should have maybe taken a little bit more of like a step back and taken the information in and sort of maybe considered the fact that it is actually happening. Having Al Qaeda flags available for $2 is a little crazy, especially if, you know, because I know some people who definitely do not agree with the extreme side of their religion, and so they want to be that role model of peace. I know lots of Muslims want to be the role model of peace and get that impression out there, you know, especially because of all of these groups, the extreme groups, and they're doing these acts of terror. So it would just make sense to me that the Muslim leaders who are promoting that, who are saying that this is a religion of peace and of love, that they would do everything that they can to make sure that that would happen, and they wouldn't maybe deny or make it come off like they're denying, you know, the possibility, the very huge possibility of this radicalization happening wherever they are. So that's what I think.
Well, I think it's there's a very kind of big disconnect here because the imam, for some reason, seems to be like when he's talking about the scripture, when he's talking about Islamic scripture, the Quran, etc. He, I believe, at one point during his talking, he says that. That Islam is a violent religion. I believe he says that, like, right? And as what I know of the Quran, it condemns violence against people of other religions unless you believe Islam to be under threat as a whole, like its existence under threat. And that's where where the extremist beliefs stem from, as I understand, is this kind of thing. And so, the radicalization of young people is happening, and I'm certain that it's happening in Australia, it's happening in the United States, it's happening all over the world. But I mean, this imam finding the Al-Qaeda flag, I mean, you can find anything anywhere. People are selling it, if you look hard enough. And if you find those radical people, you'll be able to find it. But his view that he seems to be implying that these young people are being brought over to a normal but conservative side of Islam, but they're not. These are people being brought into ISIS and Al Qaeda, which are, many Muslim people have said is not Islam. This is what the KKK is to Christianity. These are views that are not held by the majority of Muslims, and the fact that this imam seems to be implying that some of these views are normal within Islam is strange to me. I don't know, Bilal, I think you could speak to this a little better than I could, but I'm pretty certain that these kinds of extreme beliefs are not in nowhere near held by any sort of majority or even close to anything but the smallest portion of Islam, people who claim to follow the Islamic faith, right?
Sure. I'll weigh in. JC, what do you make of it?
Well, I think, I'm not like too familiar with the Islam religion, so I'm not going to go into detail of what I think about that. But it sounds to me like this guy in Australia, this leader, seems to, believe that not enough is being done. And I think, him pointing out that the Al-Qaeda flag is being sold in stores in Australia, like they're allowed to do that. I think that is a good, I guess, to me, that's good enough evidence that maybe enough isn't being done. But to me, it sounded like he's like saying, we need to do more. At least he's addressing that. Okay, we need to do more. I think I was, happy to hear him say that. Like we need to keep on, like teaching that violence isn't good, no matter like what religion you're in or whatever. Because I know in one of the recent Paris attacks, terrorism attacks, I think it was the Prime Minister of France, or it was somebody who said after one of the terrorist attacks in Paris, he just said, "Oh well, terrorism is just part of living in a city." Like that, he was just like, "There's nothing we can do," like, and that was not like a good response to that, and I was just upset when he said that. But these guys in Australia seem to have a better view on, or I guess the right kind of view on this. I guess a better response. I guess that's all I have to say.
All right. Thank you for your perspective. This was really important that I gather what you guys think, because I spent some good time looking this up. As I watch this story, when he to me, what he was saying sounded very extreme, because if you're in touch with the Muslim community, or if you attend the local mosques, specifically in San Antonio, because that's where I live, we have a very strong stance, and we immediately have statements come out on attacks on either side, whether it's what happened in Portland a few days back, or what happened in London last week. If you're not aware, in Portland, there were on a train there was a couple of Muslim ladies who were being harassed for being Muslim and like verbally harassed, and two people on the train came to their aid, and the person who was harassing them stabbed both of them to death, and a third person came and you know proceeded to attack him as well, but he was fortunately not able to kill him. And he was basically going on about, like, that your radical religion or something to that effect is affecting my religion. We also had an incident like that in San Antonio, or rather outside San Antonio in Texas, where a Muslim family was harassed by somebody saying you guys don't belong in Trump America, and like my basically just ranting about his Christianity, and he was basically verbally assaulting people. So so the Muslim community here in San Antonio speaks on both of them, both of the issues. In addition to that, nationally for America, we have CARE, Council of American Islamic Relations, that always come up and talk about whatever is happening. So I don't know about Australia, but I do know about America and how we handle situations a little bit over here. What totally baffled me was the Al Qaeda flag. I did not even know that Al Qaeda had a flag. So I went and I Googled it, and turns out that is not Al Qaeda's flag.
Oh.
Really? So that guy was just holding up something that had.
Yeah, what he was, because that's what baffled me. I was like, what is going on? That is not, because basically all you had was a flag that doesn't even look like Al Qaeda's flag. It looks more like ISIS's flag because it's black and white. That was the only thing it had in common with the flag, was the color scheme.
Yeah.
And what it said was, I'm going to translate this in English because there's no point in doing this in Arabic. The flag specifically said, "There is no God worthy of worship but Allah, or God, and Muhammad is his last messenger."
That's like
Yeah. Yes,
that's the most
that's the creed.
normal
You
thing
cannot,
that you can
you
say.
cannot be a Muslim. You cannot be a Muslim if you denounce that. That is required when we have people coming in to the mosque to accept Islam. That is required of them. They take the microphone, they go on the podium, and they recite this. This is how someone, like, I don't know. Look, like as we were discussing before we went on air, if we had a GPA score for being a Muslim, I would probably have a 1.5 or a 2.0. So I'm not very well informed on my religion. I was born into this. I haven't started researching it, and it's one of my goals. I just haven't gotten around to it. But I know this much, that the first kalma is the first step towards becoming a Muslim. If you denounce that, then what is left in the religion? That is really extreme. And I started Googling him, and I started researching him, and turns out he's a fake scholar.
What, the imam?
Yeah,
He's not. Is he even an imam?
he is an imam from a website that has from some network of South Australian Muslims that is connected with Muslims all across the world. However, his website only has him listed and no other imams. And the official representation of Muslims in Australia, it is called One Path Network. They have done a whole press release against him. So basically, the channel, what you just saw, what is going viral on the internet right now, is just saying what people want to hear. So it's like that Sunrise was basically equivalent to Fox News of Australia.
So
Yeah.
basically, Sunrise didn't do their research.
No, absolutely.
Sunrise probably did their research and they thought it would be great for ratings.
Hmm.
So it was all a stunt. It just people who are against Islam, they got somebody on air to say what they want to hear.
Yeah. I suspect I thought it was a stunt, but I didn't want to accuse someone of being, a fake scholar if I didn't have sources to back me up on that. I didn't think that this guy was legit.
Like that's the thing. If you like, if you go, look, you have to basically, a religion needs to have parameters. There are things that are do's and don'ts, but religion is based on something. It stands for something, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism. The way he was talking, he was basically denouncing each and every aspect about the religion. If you're against the scriptures, if you're against the kalma, what is left in being a Muslim? You might as well be an agnostic. You don't need it. So that was that. Thank you for your insights on it. So yeah, those were some heavy topics, and I just wanted to get them out of the way. We got one more heavy topic coming up, but fortunately, I don't have to do it. Brianna, this one's on you, man.
Okay, so this story is about two, I guess we'll say, Anglo women. Their name's Callie Wilgus and Liz Connolly. They went to Mexico, had, I guess, the most amazing tacos and tortillas of their life, and they wanted to come back to Portland and open up a business doing just that because of how amazing the food that they had was. So in order to open up this business, they went and they basically picked the minds of all of these women who craft the food to get the recipes and get all of the techniques and things that they needed to make this food, this business for Portland. The issue arising with this is that apparently it's being labeled as appropriation because there are two white women opening up essentially a Mexican business making Mexican food. And so this is causing a problem. They're trying to make authentic Mexican food, even though they're not authentically Mexican. So it's being labeled as appropriation. It's being labeled as basically these women are taking the culture, the Mexican culture, and profiting off of, thousands of years of trial and error and technique and all of these things where really, Mexican women or Mexican citizens and people of the Mexican country should be getting the success for that instead of these women. So that's the issue that we're having.
Before we open the panel up for discussion, I just want to clarify something because this concept might be a little new for me. What is culture appropriation, and does it only apply to white people?
That's a great question. We had very briefly discussed this before going on, and for me, a cultural appropriation just means that someone is copying or taking certain aspects or maybe every aspect of a culture that is not theirs and not giving due credit, basically taking that credit for themselves and flaunting it around and not really appreciating the culture, not appreciating the people. And with certain things that may have had suffering involved with it, they're not appreciating and respecting, all of the suffering and all of the hard work that maybe those cultures might have had to go through to get these things that, at least in this country, that is typically being seen as white people, taking on themselves, like in African American culture, rap culture, or in this case, the Mexican culture with the food. So that's basically, it's just taking things from another culture without giving it credit and without being respectful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I read the Wikipedia definition of cultural appropriation?
Why not?
Just the first sentence. It says, cultural appropriation is the adoption or use of the elements of one culture by members of another culture.
Read that again, please.
cultural appropriation is the adoption or use of the elements of one culture by members of another culture.
Okay,
So,
got
for
it.
all intents and purposes, like technically, I think that fits that definition. But
Okay. So and in this story, because these ladies were culture appropriating, their restaurant was shut down because culture appropriation is bad and wrong according to the law.
Brianna,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know of any cultural appropriation law here. If it got shut down, it would be because of the social, it got shut down either because they made the decision from the negative backlash, or enough pressure was being put on these two women to close it down. There was enough of a negative response. So yeah.
Okay. So what do you guys make of this story?
well, I think I'm kind of on two minds. One, I think food is something that a lot of there's certain things that are extremely inappropriate to appropriate. You know, there's all sorts of examples I won't go into now, but I think food is one of those things that in a lot of cases should be kind of open for everyone to we should everyone should be able to share food across the globe. Like that's one of the unique things about food is that we can just share different tastes from place to place, and because food is one commonality that all cultures have, right? So on one hand, I'm not opposed to this happening, but on the other, if they stole, or I say stole, if they took these recipes whole cloth from these women in Mexico, then like if they got if this was the case and they took the techniques and the exact recipes and all that stuff and then started selling them as their own and claiming that these are their recipes, then that requires, because it wouldn't be theirs. Like that seems like a sort of intellectual property theft rather than just cultural appropriation. So, but I would have to know how deeply they like took down the recipes and stuff like that. Because if they were taking the exact food and then just selling it from themselves, then that's effort put in by these women in Mexico to create their own recipes, perhaps, and then it's just being sold in a restaurant somewhere up north, and that's like not the worst thing. But usually, when you're opening up a restaurant, you can adapt recipes, you can change them, you can make them your own. But if you're taking them whole cloth, then that seems a little different. So that's my take on it.
Jesse?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think food has like patents or like copyright, I guess, if that makes sense. So I don't really think it's bad for any ethnicity to make profit out of another food that I guess is out of their ethnicity, I guess, out of their culture. I don't think that's wrong. I mean, because these Mexican women didn't have to like give their recipes to these ladies, they didn't have to do that,
They actually did. According to the article said that they went to Mexico and they spoke to them. They got the ingredients from them because they asked, and then they were reverse engineered the recipes on their own. That much was in the articles.
But like, yeah, like they asked for the recipes, but the ladies didn't have to give it. That's the not saying it's the Mexican lady's fault, but maybe I don't know. I mean that's the risk that they took, I guess.
What interests me is, right, that I know people who have done this, and I never considered, like, that shows how oblivious I am, maybe, that I wasn't aware of cultural appropriation. For example, I know someone who has a catering business, and they sell food from all ethnicities. They've got Thai food, Egyptian food, Chinese food, Pakistani food, all, and obviously they are of not the those ethnicities. So I was just confused. Like, is that something wrong? And I'm from Pakistan, right? And we have maybe more than thousands of restaurants that sell burgers, fish and chips, Chinese. Like, I'm sure even here we probably have a few hundred Chinese restaurants that are not owned by Chinese people, right?
Yeah, I think the major point of this being a problem and going back to cultural appropriation is the fact that it was white women who did it. And the impression is, well, not the impression, there, you can ask many people and they seem to have personal proof of this, but white people tend to take, hi.
I think the cat needs to be on camera, okay? Like, let's show the cat. Like, just go.
He's gone. He's just hungry. So the issue is the fact that white women did it, and cultural appropriation in this country is 99.9% always attached to white people taking something from another culture. And had this been, we'll just throw my people into the mix. Had this been a pair of Puerto Rican women opening up a taco place, this wouldn't have been an issue. The issue is the fact that it was two white women. So
What
I
if
think
two
it's really
Puerto
good.
Rican, what if two Puerto Rican women opened a burger shop, like a good old
No, yeah, there would be, there this would
barbecue
not
shop?
be like a headline anywhere. It would not be an issue. It could be any other nationality, race. I mean, whatever you want to put on it. But if it's non-white, it's usually not an issue. If it's white, it's going to be an issue. It's going to make headlines. People are going to get mad because, you know, for minorities, you know, white Europeans, Anglo-Saxons, whatever you want to call them, tend to like to take things. They have this habit, and this is very loose terms, they have this habit of going places and taking things and conquering and bringing them back and kind of putting their stamp on everything. So from a minority point of view, it's a big deal. And so for a lot of minorities, this, what these women did was a problem because they didn't go out of their way to make sure that they put credit where it was due. These women just thought they were doing something that is maybe normal. I mean, we're a capitalistic country. We go and open businesses, and opening up a Mexican place didn't seem like that big of a deal. So, and it normally isn't, but from my perspective, that's why I feel like maybe this was a problem. And so cultural appropriation is usually tagged onto white people. So
Well, nice to see that white people are also persecuted towards something. I guess I don't know.
I don't know either. I had a very tiny discussion about this specifically with a friend of mine who is born and raised in Texas. She's white, and she got very offended by someone basically talking bad about white people in general just because of this. So I get both points of view, and so it's just such a complex subject. Like, there's really no black and white about this. So yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Colin, like, what's the verdict here?
Well, I just think I think the verdict, if they didn't, in my opinion, if they didn't steal the recipes from whole cloth, there shouldn't be a huge issue just because it's food. And I think food is and while, I mean, okay, so I think food should be able to be shared around the world no matter what. And that's just like just for food's sake.
For food's sake, man.
For food's sake, I don't really agree with the closing of this restaurant, but I mean, it's up to the Hispanic population of Portland to decide. It's up to the women in Mexico who got their recipes taken. If those women in Mexico have an issue with it, then I'll have an issue with it. And if the Hispanic population of Portland has an issue with it, then I'll back them on that. But I think in a lot of cases it depends on who's making the accusation. If it's a bunch of white people getting offended on behalf of the Mexican population, then
just chill out.
Then yeah, it's just chill out for a little bit, But if it's the Hispanic population of Portland getting up in arms over this taco stand getting closed, then I say that's their prerogative. That's their right to be upset about whatever they want to. So,
JC, do you want to add anything on this? If you want to.
I don't know. I mean,
okay, that's cool. I
still kind of think that anybody should be able to, like, make whatever kind of food they want, wherever they want, even if they're making a profit off of it. I mean, because obviously these ladies thought the food was so good that they wanted to bring it to Oregon because maybe Oregon doesn't have a lot of that good food over there. So I kind of see it as a good thing, I mean, even if they were, making, I mean, what else can you do? Like, you can either go to someone else and say, hey, or find Mexican people and say, hey, you want to start a restaurant with us so that way people don't get offended, because we're white, I don't think, huh?
You could offer a partnership with the people that you're taking the recipes from.
Yeah.
You could say, hey, I think your food's great.
That's what my uncle did. My uncle at one point had a Turkish restaurant, and he flew in a cook from Turkey to do all the stuff. Thank you for your insights. I think I need to educate myself more on culture appropriation before giving any, coming to any form of conclusion. This was my first experience to it. It's an interesting topic, and I just wanted to discuss it with you all. Next up, all right, we are done with the heavy topics. Now we're gonna have a little bit of fun. The next story is probably the most disgusting of all the stories. So I'm just gonna screen share on this. We are going to be talking about, I'm going to move my light, it's annoying me. I think it's casting a shadow, so I'm going to move it here. I think it looks better from here, and sorry, I know, shouldn't do this in the middle of it, but no, that's not. My light is honestly worse than last time.
It is a little overcast today.
Yeah, okay. This is good. This is fine. This is much better than having this big fat light over here. Sorry. So next up we have this. This is a very dark story and it's a little disgusting. So I'm just giving you a good heads up that you're not gonna like what I'm about to show you. There is a petition currently taking place on change.org titled "Justice for Dog with Ears Cut Off for Selfies." I'm going to read as it is what they have written, and then I'm going to very briefly just show you the picture of the dog because it is important to have the full context. In a now viral image circulating throughout Turkish social media, two young men pose proudly next to a cowering dog with blood stumps for ears, each man holding what appears to be a dog ear in his hand. According to Turkish news, the pair are suspected to be involved in dog fighting and were reportedly punished one of their losing dogs. So they were punishing one, basically they chopped the dog's ears off as punishment for losing a fight. The Turkish justice system has now let them off with a fine of just over what is equivalent to $1,000 and no jail time. I just read Donald Trump right here. This lax punishment is not acceptable for inflicting such reprehensible harm on an animal. These men's shockingly light sentence is not even close to proportional to the pain and suffering they senselessly inflicted on an innocent animal, let alone the multiple dogs for presumably forced to tear each other to shreds in fights staged for human entertainment. Animals are not toys. They are not property. They have thoughts and feelings, as backed up by research demonstrating, excuse me, as backed up by research demonstrating that dogs are just as sentient as a human child. What's more, cruelty to animals is irrefutably linked to cruelty to human beings. This incident of grossly inhumane treatment highlights the urgent need for the Turkish government to revisit their animal cruelty laws. Please sign this petition now to call on Turkey's ambassador to the United States, Serdar Kilik, to advocate for stronger punishment for animal abuse. Dogs like this deserve justice, and animal torture must be treated like the serious crime that it truly is. I'm going to show you this picture now, and I'll just keep it on screen very briefly because I don't like seeing it. It really freaks me out.
Well, I thought you said we were done with the heavy topics.
I know, I'm sorry, but like I looked at the script and we had, but I promise this is the last dark story we'll do, and we'll have fun right after this. You know what? It's probably faster if I just open the change.org petition. I'm gonna edit this part down, obviously.
Yeah, you probably
Just
don't.
the picture.
You probably don't want to show Brianna's face.
Yeah. So we just want to look at this picture for not more. Come on. All right, that's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done. Before I open this to the panel, I want to share something else, and for this is filed in the United States. It's by Lady Freethinker, and come on, man, internet. So Lady Freethinker, I say here one more time so I can fix it in editing. This is Lady Freethinker is a non-profit website by Nina Jackal. All right, and it's an American organization that has filed this. So an American organization has filed this change.org petition. Before we start the discussion, I have signed this petition. As soon as I saw it, I was so repulsed by it that I just wanted to sign it because I'm not an animal lover per se. Like I do have a pet at home, but I'm not a very big animal lover. I like them, I don't love them. But this grossed me out, and I felt really horrible because it looks extremely painful. What do you all think?
Well, this is just extremely sad. I think that goes without saying. This is absolutely animal cruelty. They do definitely need a much heavier punishment. This is serious. The fact that the Turkish justice system gave them a slap on the wrist and like, here, pay us this amount of money, and that's all that happens is something that I strongly feel they need to revisit and think very heavily on how this is coming across, not only to their country, but I mean globally. Not that maybe they care too much about how this looks to everybody else, but I'm not entirely sure of Turkey's culture, so I don't know what their position is on on animals, whether they feel like animals are property or, dispensable or whatever the case is. But yeah, it's not right. So I for sure will be signing the petition, and it's absolutely wrong.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely reprehensible. I think I don't know that there's another stance to take on this other than it's awful, and they need to do more. And not only do they need to reprimand these women for cutting off this poor dog's ears, but they also need to increase their punishment for people who are dog fighting in general, because it seems like that didn't even factor into their sentence or the fine that they got. The fact that they were dog fighting to begin with, if these guys are taking this poor dog to a dog fighting ring and making him fight for entertainment, I guess, then they need to be. I think they need to come down on that, because it's awful. It's an awful practice.
And I agree with both Colin and Brianna. So I don't know if I can add more to that. I'm totally against animal cruelty, so. Especially toward dogs, because dogs are man's best friend. So it's like, I love dogs. I have dogs. So.
What kind of dogs do you have?
Well, actually, I only have one dog, but I've had more before. A dachshund. Had a dachshund, and then the one before that was a mix of a dachshund and something else. But,
So I've had time. Thank you for your input, and that was my first visceral reaction to it. I signed the petition, but I've been sitting on this story for a couple of days, and I've had time to process it, which is why I looked up where this petition was created. And I also spent a lot of time on change.org studying other petitions that came to my mind, and I'm kind of against the story now.
what?
The person $1,000 in fine. Let's keep economies of scale into perspective. This is Turkey. This is not United States. $1,000 is a good. I don't know what animal laws are in the United States, but $1,000 is a good money. I don't know how much a dog is worth, but given what I know about Turkey, I've been to Turkey. Turkey is not part of the European Union. It is not financially as well off as other countries. $1,000 in Turkey is worth a lot more than $1,000 in America. In America, on minimum wage, you can generate $1,000. It's 2 weeks worth of pay if somebody's on living wage working full time. So let's keep that into perspective. You're talking about people running a dog fighting ring, or whatever a dog fighting operation is called. They're obviously not. I'm completely wrong in assuming that, but they're not well off. They would when you pay a fine. The purpose of a fine is to avoid jail time. If you're going to jail, then you don't need to pay the fine. That $1,000 can be and should be spent towards education. So before I go any further, my question to you, as humans who love animals or care for animals, what is the appropriate punishment here?
That's hard to say. Intention is really important. Maybe how long they've been taking in or partaking in dogfighting is important. There are a lot of factors that are really important. I couldn't give you a concrete answer other than
that is, bear in mind, according to the change.org petition, that is an alleged statement. What they are convicted for is animal abuse, specifically towards that one animal. We do not know whether they run a dog fighting ring, and it's innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah. So, again, taking in all the different factors of the situation, and if we're going to speak on this specifically and not just the broader term of animal abuse, I think Turkey, what a good idea would be is to have a combination of both punishment and education or rehab. I wouldn't just say, oh, let's just, educate them and let them be off. But at the same time, like, no, we're not gonna like chop off a body part. I don't know if an eye for an eye basically would be the appropriate response.
Definitely not for an animal. You even like, I don't look. This is, I feel for the dog. I really do. The picture evokes a lot of sympathy for me. But reading that petition over and over and researching into it, like, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have cut you off.
No, you're okay. It's good for you to do the deeper research. A lot of people will read something and not do the deeper research. So that's very responsible of you to do. So I'm like totally in agreement with that. Hi. And so, like I said, I don't necessarily know if an eye for an eye would be the appropriate punishment. I think some sort of punishment that would, be very straightforward and get the point across to them that doing this is not okay, and also educating. Both of those things would be very important. I think that would be the most appropriate thing to do for this specific case.
JC, you have a dog, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what do you feel the punishment is for someone like that?
I think at least some kind of jail time or prison time at least.
But that's where the fine comes in. It could like maybe it's possible that $1,000 is equivalent to 2 weeks worth of jail time. It could qualify as 2 weeks of jail time within America as well if somebody's on living wage.
Well, I think more than 2 weeks of jail time for sure. I was thinking like at least a year's worth of some kind of prison or jail time.
Okay.
At least a year. I don't know.
Okay. Personally, if I would never do that to anything, but if I were to do it, and I'm just picturing myself as being that apathetic and doing it to an animal, I think 5 nights in jail would probably be more than enough to drive home that message that I've done terrible thing. Like, just picture yourself in jail where all your amenities, all your resources, your phone has been taken away from you for a whole year. This is a good question. Like, I wish I spent more time on this story, but
yeah.
Like, how long do you go in prison for assault against a human being? So before I move to the next topic, Colin, I just like you to weigh in. I know you also have a cat, not a dog, but a cat. That's similar.
I have 2 dogs.
Oh, you have 2 dogs?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. My girlfriend's the one with the cat. Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends on like what's the precedent set in Turkey, I would have to know what's the typical like average working class wage in Turkey.
Let's apply it to United States. Even if somebody is running a dog fighting ring, I would assume they're extremely destitute. Not only do they lack education, I bet they don't have any other viable source of income as well. And I don't know how profitable that business is. I would hope that that's not a profitable business.
But
so $1,000, because given that I've paid fines off, right? Like nothing to do with animal abuse. I'm talking about a traffic ticket. Okay. I came up with a payment plan for it. It was like a $500. So I set up that you're gonna pay it off gradually, because $500 at once can be a good hit on you. So in that perspective, like, yeah.
I don't think money should never like be equal to something physical. Like it just makes no sense. Oh, even if the equivalent of $1,000 is way more in Turkey, how does that compare to the physical harm that they made? That wouldn't, there's no replacement for that.
Well,
So
that is the nature of a fine. That's why it exists. I agree with you.
Yeah.
But the thing is that if you provide the money, stimulus money, when you put somebody in jail, they're still there. They take resources. You will have to put electricity in a jail cell. You will have to provide them humane conditions, feed them, give them toilet. That all takes resources from the government. So a fine is it's a it hits you. You know that I think a fine has its place in society, and I think you can learn. You know, sometimes again not associated with any physical abuse to any kind, but a traffic ticket drives that message home that you're not going to be, you know, breaking a red light even if there's no one at the signal.
Well, I think
I,
some crime.
I understand that it's a very unfair analogy. I understand that because you're abusing an animal, but at the same time, I'm conflicted rather. I'm conflicted.
I think it just depends on the crime, because some crimes can be solved with, oh, here, just pay this fine and that can hit you. But I think some crimes take more than money. Some crimes you gotta be physically, like, not physically punished, but like physically confined to where you can't, you know, just do whatever you want, you know, because I
But you
think
will be
I agree with Brianna. Like, for some crimes, you can't put money on it, you know.
fair enough. I respect what you're saying. So the three of you are in agreement that the punishment is simply not enough and this person deserved much worse.
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily in agreement because I don't you mentioned we're talking economies of scale. I think I'd have to know how much proportionally is that fine to this person, you know, in Turkey. I think I don't. I think like a couple weeks in jail, if jail time were the thing, I think a couple weeks in jail, maybe a little bit more, but not up to a year, in my opinion. But I think it really depends on. There's a lot of factors that we don't. There's a lot of factors and variables that I don't know, and I don't know their history. I don't know the precedent set for this kind of abuse in Turkey already. I'm not even sure of the precedent set for this kind of abuse in America, so I can't make a judgment on this without all that information. So I wouldn't say I'm necessarily in agreement or disagreement. I can't make it enough of an informed decision on it right now.
Well, I'm gonna be sharing something next with you guys, which made my decision a little easier. So I spent some time on change.org after signing this petition. This petition has earned itself over 700,594 supporters. I can't see right now when this petition was launched, but I'm gonna guess not too long ago. If we go to the news link right here, this story was originally posted in January. So it's been they've had 5 months to amass this. Now, just random curiosity, right? I went on the search engine and all I did was write Syria, which is currently the hotspot for the most human right violations taking place. We have a petition right here that was created 5 years ago with 14,781 supporters. This is only for sanctions. This is not even talking about something extreme. Then we have another one, don't let Syria down. 74,000 signatures, 2013. Save the Children, November 1st, 2016. I don't want to open any pictures inside this because that would probably be much more harder for me to deal with. Only 30,000 signatures. I can keep going down, unrelenting horror in Syria. And just to shake things up and not make it about just Syria, because I think Syria has gotten attention in the news, I'm going to replace it with Burma. Burma is another place where you have human right abuses. There is a petition right here, also 5 years old, asking President Obama to speak out against ethnic cleansing taking place in Burma. Only 69,000 supporters. End hostilities in Burma, 54,000. These are petitions that have been active for years. And stop Burma genocide, only 84 supporters. So keeping things in perspective, come on.
I want to point out that a number of those petitions had the victory tag at the top of them. I don't know if you were noticing.
That's well.
Not in Burma, but in the Syria one, the top few they had a little red thing that says victory. So I don't know how many signatures they needed, but
I would have to look into it. But given that I keep a few tabs on Syria and Burma, I can assure you they are nowhere close to victory. The entire city of Aleppo has been grounded.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that if
I'm sorry, I haven't invested enough time. But when I saw this contrast, the dog kind of seemed a little less significant, and I kind of lost my sympathy for the dog went down, and I questioned myself, what is going wrong? How can a dog in 5 months get 300K bleeding hearts, including my own, whereas actual genocide, thousands of people dying, doesn't warrant any attention? I'm sorry, like this is a dog story on its own, and I just made it worse.
No, I mean, I completely understand what you're saying. Unfortunately, stories about dogs share around Facebook a lot faster than stories about genocide do, and it sucks, but that's just
the reality of life. We will end with that.
The reality of social media. Yeah.
I'm clearly bringing everyone down. So this one is really fun. Okay, this is a really good topic. You all are gonna love it. Brianna, this is your story. Take it away. I absolutely loved it.
Well, just real quick, I wanted to mention I have about 13 minutes left before.
I've been looking at the clock myself as well. We've been taking it slow today. We will end it in 13 minutes, even if we don't cover all the story. That's fine.
Okay, well, this one's new to me too. I don't know this. So it's a gym bag or a duffel bag that you can use as a gym bag or as a carry-on that apparently kills bacteria, freshens your clothes, it sanitizes everything in it, and it's really cool and awesome using UV light. So it's kind of like last time's podcast. It's another one of those gadgety things that seems to solve a lot of humanity's problems in traveling and everyday life. And the technology that they're using that apparently was derived from NASA, if I remember quoting the video correctly, they got it from NASA, and so they used that technology and basically brought it into the commercial arena to buy. So it's called Paxil, and it's got PacTech in it. And so do you feel like you would use something like this to and have it basically freshen up and make your clothes clean again?
To me, it depends on the price tag of the gadget. It's way too out of proportions, and I don't mind just taking dirty clothes home and washing them there. You know, if it's an inexpensive thing, like if it's only like $10 per bag, then you know it might be kind of cool to have, but I don't see it as like a necessity to have this Paxil thing.
I think if I was backpacking across Europe, it might be useful to have, but
I kind of like totally went out of the story. Did anyone else? Hello?
can you hear us?
Well, I
Like,
know your camera freezed up.
yeah, it's because I as soon as I reset, like, okay, I just went off. We're gonna let's take this offline, because I would have to, you know, review if whatever she said is usable or not. I'm gonna stop the broadcast. Shit, I disconnected again, and now there is me and Age Media separately.
Oh boy.
Age Media has abandoned me. I thought I was